There are top 5 reasons why Kaizer Chiefs will dominate this season, but this is currently only on paper. They will need to make sure that they execute everything straight to the core. So far, with what we've seen, Kaizer just looks dangerous. From pre-season, I understand we won only one game in pre-season, and obviously we've had a couple of chances that we could have used, and we've made a couple of mistakes, especially with the goalkeeping department, which is also something that will be adding to those top 5 things that we will be looking at on today's video, guys. Now, starting off with the first things first, the smart transfer strategy. I think Kaizer have done things not just unintentionally, but they did their signings in a smart, intentional way, because you look at what they did. They did not just go out there, sign players who are being hyped. We hyped a lot of players last season. We've hyped players like Pasadena, players like Osunapolis, even though he did not have a good season last season, but at the end of the day, I still feel like it was done intentionally so that he could be able to move from the top that he was in. But anyways, we're not there. So definitely Kaizer have come out smart. They did not just sign players who are being hyped by the media or what the fans want. They just decided, no, we need quality players, but players who are not just quality, even if they are not hyped. That's what we're looking for. Players who will be able to control, players who will not be having a lot of expectations, because at the end of the day, you look at some of the players that we could have signed from the perspective of us as fans. We sign a player like Fiston Mayele. We will want immediate impact. We will want him to perform, and that is something that ends up killing those players at the long run when I'm reflecting to everything, because at the end of the day, the players themselves, they need to be able to sometimes adapt. Those players, they play different leagues. They need to be able to adapt to the system. They need to be able to adapt to the environment, how PSL is and everything. But we end up putting them in the lion's den, and then we expect everything because we think all of the players are the same, which is totally not true. So definitely Kaizer just came with a good strategy. They said, no, let's just sign players who are not well known, and also let's just bring in a little mix of players who are more experienced, which we've seen players like Paseka Marco. Yes, he's a more experienced player. We've seen a player like Tabiso Monyane is another player who's more experienced, and also they've brought in the youngsters. And then point number 2, guys, the defense strategy. I think Kaizer just came up with a good defensive strategy, because you look at the mixture of how Kaizer Chiefs is defending this season. Last season, it was only senior players, and a lot of those senior players, some of them, actually not a lot of them, some of them were disappointing in certain games, in certain moods, because of certain things which I do not know. We both don't know what was happening with those older, more experienced players so far, that we are hoping to get at least the less errors, less mistakes from them. But at the end of the day, we've seen them making those errors, those mistakes. So we've brought in players like Aiden McCarthy, defensive wise. We've brought in Aiden McCarthy, which is a center back. We've brought in Tulane Mabaso, who's a CDM, central defensive midfielder. Yes, he operates in that midfield, but obviously currently he has been deployed mostly as a CDM or a CM, because playing double pivot, you need to be sure that you can be able to play both positions at the same time. And then also we've had a player like Kabelong Kwesa, which is a left back. So these are the kind of players that we have managed to bring in, which they are young players, and also how we've managed to bring older players like Tabiso Munyane, who has been deployed on that right back. And then also we've managed to pair not just Aiden McCarthy with Inaso Miguel, but also we've paired him with Zita Kwineka. Now I'm still hoping to see him being paired with Given Simango, but there's a lot of quality players that you can feel with it. Definitely this season going forward, we are not going to be making a lot of mistakes, because at the end of the day, trusting too much in the youngsters can be a problem. Trusting too much in just the older players can also be a problem. But on paper, if you put both, you need to have a good balance, because at the end of the day, you're not expecting a lot of clear things from the young ones, and also not expecting a lot of mistakes from the older ones. So that is how it's going on paper currently. And then also we've seen, the coach bringing in Ox, and then Ox playing more offensively as a DM. So definitely that is something that you can tell, which brings me to my next point, which is point number 3. So far we've seen that the players themselves are starting to understand the coach. Coach Nazuddin Nabi is being understood currently. I feel like last season probably they were not understanding the coach as much. I even heard an interview from Samuel Zwane where he was interviewed with Jessica Mtaung, and he said, no, definitely we are starting to understand the coach and we understand what he wants, which obviously as a coach there's a lot of things that you're expecting from a player, and also you're hoping those players can be able to listen to instructions to the core. But other than that, you can see that Coach Nazuddin Nabi has introduced more aggressive pressing system. We put so far with the teams that we've played against, we've put them under a lot of pressure. If that team comes to us with a lot of pressure, we decide the tempo, we drop it, we bring it down, and then we start to be comfortable to make sure that we build up. I remember the team that we played, I don't know if it was Zole or what, I forgot the name of the team, but we played the team. They were very, 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 very pressing Bafetu. It was a team that you could tell that this team can destroy you in just a literal second, but we managed to get out of that situation, and then we pressed more firmly, and then we tried to dictate the tempo because we maintained the control, we maintained the game, we maintained everything. Yes, we did not win because of the mistakes and everything else, but other than that, Kaizer just played very well. They performed very, very well. So definitely you can see that they are doing exactly what the coach needs and what the coach wants from them at that moment, which you can say it does have to do with the coach being here for a little bit while longer than having been here in the first season, trying to get everything right in just the same season, which is it's a problem. It turns out to be a problem. Even last season we were not supposed to finish in top 8, but we did end up finishing outside the top 8. But anyways, we are not there. As I've said, you can see that the players are understanding. I even saw George Mantlo playing the role of being a DM and also being a CM. You understand? So a CDM and also a CM being played beautifully by Josh McLeod, because at the end of the day they understand what the coach needs from them and they know what the coach wants. So those are the kind of positives that we've seen. So on paper everything is looking good, everything is looking proper. And then point number 4, I believe, will be with something to do with trusting the young stars. Coach Nazuddin Nabi currently is showing a bit more trust, in terms of the young stars. Like I've said, we've brought in Tulani Mabaso. He's using him and he feels like he's giving us great result. He even said it himself, I was impressed by Tulani Mabaso, Kabelo, so definitely it shows you that the coach is trusting the young players. Even Edwin McCarthy, I believe he was impressed by that guy. Even the players who have been promoted a while ago, I know Coach Nazuddin Nabi was impressed by those players. So him being able to trust those young stars definitely is going to take us places, because at the end of the day we can't just rely on the older players. They also need to be able to do things in a different way. So far I do not want to lie, but what I'm seeing, it's great progress. Aiden McCarthy doing wonders. We have players like Tulani Mabaso doing wonders. We've had players like Naledi Hlangwane. Yes, I know he still needs a bit of work, but he was doing proper. We have Mduduzi Shabalala, you have Yomfundo Vilagazi. Those young stars, young players so far, even though some of them are not that young anymore, Nkosing Philo Ngcobo, you look at everyone. Even last game he won man of the match. I feel like he was too good for me to be able to notice that he was even there, because when you're doing your job properly, we can't even see whether there's a problem or there's no problem, because at the end of the day that's why he ended up winning man of the match. I thought I could not see much of him. I thought like there was nothing. I could only see the glimpses when there was something going forward. I could see, to know, this is Nkosi Ngcobo doing the wonders, making sure that he receives the ball, he controls and try to maintain, playing that role that he was being given. Yes, I could say he was not playing as an attacking midfielder, but he was doing wonders. And then last but not least, guys, point number 5, then that will have to do with, the tactical strategy, because so far I feel like they've decided to do something that is called a long-term project. Yeah, it's something that coach has been saying from the start of the season, last season, I believe, but definitely having that clear roadmap to show, okay, definitely this is what we need to do. We need to win the cup, we need to compete and try to push ourselves into the top 3, and then we need to make sure that we dominate, or we participate and show something in the CAF Confederations Cup, which definitely that is something. And so far we can say they did manage to break the curse and win at least the trophy. And then also now we are looking to see what is going to happen with the CAF Confederations, and how are we going to try and make sure that this coming season we get into the top 3. Yes, I know we might think with the new signings everything is not going to be proper, but at the end of the day, just like I said, we do not just sign players who are big names or players who are being hyped, but we sign players according to the system, players who will be able to fit and be integrated into what we want them to be. So at the end of the day, so far on paper, this is how Kaizer Chiefs is looking. Number 1, smart transfer strategy. Number 2, defensive strategy. Number 3, understanding the coach. Number 4, trusting the youngsters. And number 5, tactical strategy. Definitely those are the kind of things that shows us on paper Kaizer Chiefs is looking good. They are prepared. Now it's up to them. How are they going to execute the rest of the things that we've seen from the positives? Yes, they might need a goalkeeper, but if we do not make a lot of mistakes and we try by all means to make sure that we improve in terms of defense, specifically when making mistakes, because that was something that was destroying us even last season. This season I'm seeing less and less of those few mistakes. Yes, it's a bit early, but if we can try to minimize or not have them at all, then definitely we will not even need to sign a goalkeeper, because at the end of the day they will be protected by the defense, which is something that Mamelodi Sundowns has been doing for years. But anyways, guys, I think this is it. Thank you so much for watching. Please do not forget to like, share and comment on this video what your thoughts are on today's video. Guys, I believe this is it. Thank you so much. I will see you with something new. Peace.